All right. This will be the fourth time I've tried to make this video. Each time I get either interrupted or I just kind of lose steam halfway through. I think part of the difficulty is that I'm very tired at the end of a long work day, so I'm going to try to get through this without what the problem is that the problem that I run into is that I usually end up just ranting for 25 minutes, and nobody wants that. So I'm going to try to stay on task. But for what I want to talk about today, I want to tell you about my friend Glauco. Glauco was a guy, he was this Brazilian guy that I worked with for a while, back when I was in my early 20s, working as a motion graphics designer. And we both worked in the same marketing department. And Glauco was somebody that I really kind of looked up to. He was a few years older than me, and I thought I kind of thought the world of him. He was a really cool dude. Kind of took me under his wing as far as design stuff went. Showed me a lot of stuff, but also was one of the first people in my life who would tell me, like, hey, figure stuff out on your own. There was more than once that I would ask him questions about how I should do things, especially when it came to design, and he said, I'm not going to sit here and hold the pencil for you. I'm not going to hold the mouse for you. You've got to solve these problems on your own, and only come for advice when you have really good questions, which was shocking for me at the time. And it's something that's really kind of helped me as I've gotten older and have had various other mentors in my life. I try to make sure that I always go to tutors or teachers at school with good questions, and when I don't have good questions, I try to figure things out on my own as much as possible, so that I'm not wasting people's time. But that's kind of an aside. What was interesting about Glauco, he had a lot of esoteric interests, different interests in books, poetry, and music and stuff than I had at the time, and he kind of opened my eyes to a whole different world of art and music at that time that I thought was really fascinating. And one of those types of things, one of those artists that I got into on his suggestion was the poet Rumi. And in fact, Glauco had a little green post-it on his desk for as long as I could remember, and I believe it was there until the day that he left. And on that post-it was a quote from Rumi, and I wrote the quote down. It says, "I wonder, from these thousands of me's, which one am I?" And what's interesting about that is it's actually the opening line to a poem, and it's almost a non sequitur. It has seemingly no relation to the rest of the poem. And that may be just that I have misinterpreted the poem, or it was a bad translation that I read. But that opening line was just so striking to me. In fact, it's something that I think about regularly. From which of these thousands of me's am I? It's kind of thing that comes into my brain when I'm in the shower in the morning, just getting ready for my day. And I feel it's relevant to what I want to talk about, which is the idea of having too many irons in the fire. It's kind of an expression. I never really heard that expression until I moved down here to the South. But now I hear it all the time. Oh, he's busy. He's got a lot of irons in the fire. And it's pertinent to an engineering student like myself, or any person who's trying to pursue something difficult. Because, for example, in my life, I have been a musician, I've been an artist, a designer. I've dropped out of school twice before now. I've had a lot of different interests and pursuits, and there was a big shift around 2016 where I decided I was tired of being a designer, a photographer, videographer. I was tired of being behind a desk all the time, and I wanted to go work with my hands. So I became a mechanic, and I started working on old cars, restoring old cars, and then I got into building engines and became a machinist, like I am now, and now I'm trying to become an engineer. And one of the things that's made this particular transition hard is the understanding that of all of these pursuits that I've had throughout my life, this one pursuit requires me to give it my entire attention, to give it absolutely everything that I have. And anybody who is in the same boat as I am and going to school and working full time knows that it's all consuming. You have to kiss your social life behind. You have to kiss your hobbies behind. You have to leave your... I said that sentence completely wrong. You have to kiss your social life goodbye. You have to leave your hobbies behind. And when I wake up in the morning, I can kind of look around my house and see the detritus of all of these different career paths that I've taken. I see guitars that are sitting and haven't been played in months. I see my cameras and equipment collecting dust, paintings untouched for years, tools untouched for years. Hell, I got a project car that's I'm making progress on, but we're talking a couple hours at a time on a weekly basis at most. There's a lot of projects left undone, and there are some that I've just completely given up on. There's hard drives, stacks of hard drives in my computer room of old projects. I did a lot of digital art in my 20s as a designer, and there's projects on there that I know that I have no intention of going back to. And those ones don't bother me as much as, you know, my guitar is sitting, and my skills as a guitarist and a musician slowly kind of fading away. And I do pick up the guitar every once in a while, and I do intend to make it a practice again, and I want to make a practice of it at some point again to play with intention and regularity, but right now is not the time. And it can be upsetting to see all of these different parts of yourself literally rusting, literally collecting dust. It's like leaving behind an old friend. Because especially as somebody who's really kind of pursued their passions in life, I've never gone into a job thinking I'm going to make a lot of money. It was always, I'm very passionate about this thing and I want to pursue it to its fullest. So I kind of take on the identities of these jobs. I was a designer and it consumed me entirely. I would spend my day and night thinking about these things, researching, until the day that I felt so burnt out that I never wanted to touch another Wacom tablet in my life. And I became a mechanic. And I restored cars and had a good time and learned a ton of skills. that I still think are valuable to this day. But at the same time, it got to a point where if I had to crawl underneath another dashboard, I was going to lose my mind. And so I became a machinist, and that you can't help but wonder, where's the end of the road for this? You know, I'm still fairly fresh. I just got out of school. I went to school for machining. I've done machining as kind of like a hobby, and as part of building engines and just making little parts and stuff for cars for the last 7 years, but never full time. And I've only been a full-time machinist for a year. Because of my experience, I got promoted right into a tool making position. So I have a good amount of experience and a degree. And right in the middle of pursuing that, I realized, like, this is another one of those jobs that in 5 to 10 years, I'm going to get sick of. And I knew that at that point, I was like, I need to make a lasting change. And for me, that was the one thing that I haven't really obtained in my life, is a good education. I haven't attained a bachelor's degree. And I have a lot of thoughts about that as being kind of like a requirement for what I want to do. But nevertheless, it is kind of a barrier for me to not have that degree for the doors that I want to start knocking on. So here I am in the middle of pursuing that, and all of these projects, all of these personas, all of these parts of me that were once extremely important to who I was sit untouched. And it's like that Rumi quote, when I wake up in the morning, I have to choose which hat to put on. And almost every day that hat needs to be the disciplined student who needs to pour all of myself into a class just to get by. I'm only taking one class this semester, Calculus 2, and it's taking all of me to get through it. I do have some time to spend with my wife because it is only one class, but from Monday through Saturday night, it is all calculus and work, and most of Sunday morning too. So, and as we head into exam season, it's going to be balls to the wall for the next 2 weeks. But one of the things that makes it easier, that has made it easier, is the realization. Okay, let me back up. Rather than talking about what makes that easier, let me talk about what makes it hard. You think about all of these things that you're leaving behind, and rationally, I know, like, at the end of the next few years of my life, there will still be guitars. There will still be all of my paintings. There will still be all of my projects. And I'll hopefully have the time and hopefully the money to finish those projects, because that is another thing that I've run into a lot, especially with project cars that I like to build, is I just don't have the financial means to do everything I need to do. So that rationalization has helped a lot, knowing that by getting this degree, I'll have more time and money for the projects that I want to do. But one of the things that's made that hard is realizing that these things that were once your identity no longer define you. And that's by necessity. It can be like I said, like leaving behind an old friend. And some days you wake up and you think, boy, I'm putting so much time and energy into this one pursuit. And I could be spending that time enjoying my life and doing the things that I feel give it richness. But ultimately, if I think back to the time period before I started working on this degree, I was in kind of a place where all of those things didn't really give me the same amount of joy. I felt like there was something kind of missing from my life, and for the life of me, I can't say exactly what that is, but having something difficult to pursue like this engineering degree has salved that a little bit, to the point that, there are days where I just say, you know what, today I'm just going to screw off. I'm not going to do any homework. I'm going to just do all of those things that, especially if I'm like ahead on this class, like I get a few days ahead. I think, you know what, today's a good day to go back to doing some of those projects that I want to do. And I do those things. I'll tinker with my car for a little bit. And then when I get to something really hard, let's say, for example, I was working on my car last weekend and I realized, oh, okay, I'm going to need to pull this motor out. It needs a motor. I said, well, I'll do that next weekend. For now, I want to relax. And so it's like, even when you do have the time to pursue those passions that you had, they don't bring you the same joy, because you know that ultimately your purpose right now is to focus on your studies, focus on getting through whatever difficult task it is that you decide to put your mind to. And the idea is that when you're done with this big project, you can move on with your life and go back into enjoying some of those things, satisfied in knowing that you've pushed a little bit further. That's the hope, that's the goal, that's the idea. When I'm distracted and I have a hard time focusing on my studies, it's 100% because I feel this pull in all of these different directions and all these different pursuits that I wish I could still be participating in. But at the end of the day, I've got 2 more weeks of school left, and what's crazy is I've had to plan. I have 3 weeks off before the semester. I've had to plan those 3 weeks diligently. And I have really thought and considered what I want to do during that time. And it doesn't, the way I want to spend that time doesn't involve pursuing those projects that I had before, or pursuing those passions that I've had before. It involves traveling to see my friends and my family that I haven't seen in a while because I've been so busy. It involves spending quality time at home. It involves, there's some repairs of the house, and I'm actually looking forward to doing them. There's some repairs that I need to take care of, and they're nothing major, and I'm gonna enjoy doing those things because I can rest in knowing that I, for this last semester, pursued everything as hard as I could, did the best I could. And I know that going into the next semester, I will continue to do the same, and that time I can spend resting and getting ready. And so these personas, these projects, these hobbies, these ideas, these identities that you've had before, having to pursuing something like an engineering degree or whatever it may be, pursuing one big, hairy, audacious goal, teaches you to kind of excise all of those things from your life that are extraneous. It puts things in proper place. Do I wish I could spend my Saturdays plinking away on my guitar, or pursuing different passion projects, making art and doing things? Yes, absolutely. But ultimately, those were things that were my day job at one point, and I was pursuing them with my whole heart. And there are reasons that I don't do that anymore. One of the things too that can be difficult and sad and hard to accept is, especially as far as it goes with music, accepting that I do not want to be a musician anymore. I chose not to pursue that path anymore. And it was for more than just practical reasons. There's not a ton of money in it, of course, but also the long hours, the touring, the different things that it just didn't really vibe with me. I enjoyed playing guitar for playing guitar's sake. I enjoyed those things, and it doesn't have to be my day job. It doesn't have to be my identity. It's just something that I like to do. And for people like me, it's hard to accept that that these things that the thing that you're doing it's hard to accept that something that was so important to you is no longer as important to you. It's hard to accept that. There are days when I wake up and I think, man, I'd really like to get behind the computer again and make some art again. And I'll tinker with it. I'll open it up. Maybe I'll even make something that I think is really cool. And then I think, God, if I had to wake up and do this again tomorrow, I would lose my mind. And that's also part of the danger of making your hobbies into your job, is that it can become, it can really strip away the joy out of the things that you love to do. So that's all I really wanted to say, was that when you wake up in the morning and you think about all of the things that you have been in your life, that's like what Rumi describes as all of these different me's, these different personas that you can adopt. And you can choose to put on a different hat each day. You can choose, hey, today I'm going to work on guitar, and then tomorrow I'm going to work on art, and then the next day I'm going to, develop my skills for my career. And you're going to spread yourself out so damn thin that you won't get anywhere. And that's a fact of life. It's hard to accept that not only can you not do everything, but you can't do most things. And so you have to excise things. You have to think deeply about what you want to be, what kind of person you want to be, and what are the things that you're going to pursue as part of being that person. And you have to choose a persona and put it on with consistency. Not every day, but most days, in order to get anywhere. That's my opinion on that. And I hope to expound on that more in the future. But anyway, that's all I really want to talk about. Like I said, we're heading into exam week. So we have one more week of instruction. Then the next week, today is a Friday, so next Wednesday, a week from this coming Wednesday, will be my final in Calc 2. And I am terrified. I've been reviewing old tests while also trying to keep up with current assignments. And a lot of it is like relearning from scratch. But we'll get there. We're going to do the best that we possibly can. And yeah, we'll see what happens. I also took the day off before that exam. So the day before the exam, I'll have a day off. So I can really hit the books hard that day. And I'm actually excited about that. So anyway, like I said before, if you're in a similar boat, pursuing a degree or an engineering degree in your later years, I'm only 34. I think of myself as an old man all the time, but I feel like an old man. And you will too if you are in your 30s pursuing a degree. If you're in the same boat, reach out. And know that it is difficult, and know that nobody can tell you if it will be worth it, but there is value in the striving, and this is this idea of stripping away the things that aren't as important to really focus on what matters is part of the benefit. So have a good week.